All right, Batman animated series rewatch Mudslide, a Clayface episode. I have to tell you, got a lot of thoughts on this one. Let's talk about it right now. So anytime Clayface is there, I'm actually going to enjoy it. I know I am. So it's just always a fun one. This one's a little slow getting started here, where we have a night guardsmen working their way through, and one goes off, another one comes in. You don't quite understand exactly what's going to happen here, and turns out that one of them actually is Clayface. Now, what is great is how quick Clayface can change form and become someone else. So he becomes the boss very quickly here because he knows he's going to get caught. He attacks the Night Guardman, and Batman is not far behind. But what we do get when Batman does show up is a little bit of fun. We get some crazy Clayface stuff, right? There was like a little, like a night alarm, a little sensor in the old Batmobile, and he was supposed to be done with his patrol, but he gets called in here to the old Wayne building here for this to happen. And then you see the Clay kind of work into play. He's just not able to hold himself together well, and then he's kind of attacking Batman, but he's not able to hold his shape like he normally is. And I think it just that's what the entire episode is about. But as I said, more Clayface. I've always said this is the one of the villains. Obviously, Mr. Freeze being the other one. I'm not counting the abomination that is Arnold Schwarzenegger's interpretation. But Clayface really has not been done. And I'm talking about like a live action, lean into that horror. There are rumors that they're going to do something, but I don't want a villain story. I don't want a Clayface story. I don't want a penguin version of this. I just don't. I want a Batman versus Clayface. I think it could be done with another character. I think there could be someone else that could be part of it as well. I'm not opposed to that. So, but Mudslide is dealing with the fact that he is desperate. His ability to keep form is diminishing. He's unable to keep even his shape. He's sort of like melting even in whatever form he has. And the sequence just is very slow and methodically unpacking as it goes about that. So Clayface kind of gets away by just jumping out the window. And then Batman sort of like is in tow trying to figure out how to catch him. But as you will see, it's like he's just not actually able to hold himself together. And he kind of will do something to Batman. And he's just basically just ooze and goo, and it's just not playing out. Well, come to find out, he's got a little lady friend, and she's been experimenting and got this like mold, if you will, this little form that kind of takes shape and kind of gives him some sort of hope that he can survive. Well, Batman is researching things with Alfred there, trying to figure out what's going on, and they do track down this TV doctor, and that kind of gives Batman the clue, and it's happening very simultaneous to her actually watching an episode, and he is just an emotional mess. He's totally wrecked by the fact that he is facing his mortality, because if he can't come up with a solution, he is not going to be able to, hold together. He's going to perish. I want to give credit to Ron Perlman because the voice acting is really superb. The show always has superb voice actors. I mean, that's not a surprise for anyone. But I think this episode really, really hinges on how much you can enjoy Ron Perlman kind of emoting through that crisis and trying to communicate how bad it is. And look at how great the animation gets with dealing with him. And I don't exactly know what you could do with the CGI and make it look real, because I think you're going to have to go with a lot more dark shadows and not get into bright oranges or anything like that. You're really just going to have to be kind of dark and kind of scary in that way. Like it's the fear of the unknown of who he could be, what he can do. All of those things are in play. So as you can see, Clayface disguised himself as a scientist and he escapes. He allegedly has experimental medication, the treatment, the chemical that can save him. But even on the subway trying to escape, look, he's just melting. The body's just kind of falling apart around his form. There's a little kid that kind of sees it, and then you kind of see Clayface just barely holding it together when Batman attacks with a freeze spray, and that kind of works briefly, but it just kind of makes him kind of become chunks and jumps out a window, and he's just little pieces, but he's fine. He survives all that. And this is one of my pet peeve, and I know people It's a kind of unrelated video. I'm not going to even put a link to it, but they snuck Clayface in Creature Commandos. Don't know why. Doesn't really have crossover in the comic book. Doesn't really work. It's just something that Gunn comes up with, right? But they have a battle with Clayface. Eric Frankenstein electrocutes Clayface, which has happened in Batman animated series before, and knocks him out, but doesn't kill him. He's just mud. Why would it kill him? It's like a shock to the mud. It's a shock to the organic material, but it wouldn't prevent him from like surviving it. No, in there he makes him brittle and he dies. Makes no sense. Here we get a good representation of Clayface and what he would be able to do to survive. Then you just get confrontation with Batman and the scientists because you're going to figure out Batman's going to like, listen, you've got to come up with some sort of situation that works. We can't have you stealing things. We can't have you doing this. Of course, Clayface is definitely um, uh, much more violent and volatile. He actually grabs Batman, sticks him inside of himself, which is, it's actually shocking. Now, again, I don't know if this would work in live action or not. But is anyone else like curious if we could try to figure it out? Could we get a good computer rendering? That would be terrifying. Could you imagine fighting like a mud monster and then it just grabs you and just suffocates you by sticking it inside itself? Like, oh my gosh. Now, I don't know. I don't know that that can work. I would have to see. They'd have to sell me on that actually working in live action. But at least conceptually, it's so radically different than the stuff that we've seen from Batman. And then how he escapes is fantastic. Batman just quite literally just shoots out through him and then just explodes out the top. That's just insane. Of course, then the battle takes place outside. And of course, he's barely able to hold himself together anyway. So the fact that Hagen's just like there, it's raining, he's basically just falling apart. And the chemical's not working. He's in the rain. And he basically, literally, the name of the episode is called Mudslide. He just sort of like slides away. And look at the tragedy in the animation. Look at the tragedy and the horror in the face. This is kind of an underrated episode. I'm still not saying this is like top 20 or anything like that, but I always think of Feet of Clay. That's the one I usually pop in when I kind of want to throw, because season 1 is so good. Like you're pretty much up and down. There's only a handful of episodes I think that are like in that, mediocre or less category. Mudslide's really solid and deserves some attention and some appeal for folks, because that's really good. And then just to make it official that he just sort of like disappears and his form kind of comes bubbling to the surface and then just kind of disappears into nothing, and then we just have credits. There's no last minute comment or anything like that for Batman. All right, so Clayface, I don't know, is it one of the ones that you like a lot? Do you have a villain that you would like to see more of? Like, I mean, Poison Ivy, Mad Hatter, we can keep going. They do some stuff with the Gotham series and things like that, but I still feel like the problem with Batman is they always want to reboot it. They want to start over again, make a name for themselves, bring in a new Joker, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there's just so much richness in just doing it right. And I wish they had fans of the comics and the source material to come in and say, why don't we adapt this? And then we'll follow it up with this. And then that'll all tie together with this. And then at this point, you could do it and have like a 7-movie franchise, because if you could plot it all out and have a plan and see the growth of different characters, they're in Arkham, stop killing them off, make it a threat. Actually, you should culminate it with some sort of nightfall thing that would lead into the final movie or something. But I don't have hopes. I don't have hopes. So I go back to Batman Animated Series. I will be doing it again here soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you soon.